Hello, and welcome to the Relentless Transitions podcast. My name is Teresa Carthren, and we are so excited to have you here for our very first episode. Hold on to your seats, buckle in, because today, what we are going to do is we're going to share with you a little bit about who we are, how we met, and why we decided to embark on this crazy journey through this podcast, and actually what we hope to achieve. If you are a fan of vision boards, then you want to stay tuned to the very end because we are going to share with you our vision for the Relentless Transitions podcast. So, to kick us off, I will go ahead and get started and tell you a little bit about who I am. My name, as I said in the beginning, is Teresa Carthren, and I represent the U.S. And I am the founder of Make Your Mark Media and Publishing, where we are keenly focused on helping women to showcase their voices through media and print. And our goal this year is to help 1,000 women to showcase their voice through publishing. So if you are an up and coming author, then we will talk about that more. Um, did you want to share with us who you are, Miss Rosalind Keith, our fabulous co host?
I'm Rosalind Keith. I'm a life coach up here in the True North Strong and Free of Canada. I have a goal this year to provide coaching to as many people as possible and make people understand that coaching can be affordable and life changing and useful. Um, I have been a coach for uh, I'd say since about 2010. I've morphed my business so many times over that period of time due to life circumstances. I'm a mother of two grown children and two crazy cats.
Awesome, awesome. So, guys, listen, if you are listening in, there is so much that we want to share with you today. So, with Rosalind and I, we're just going to take turns and go back and forth and answer and share with you information about us, the same question or topic, but just giving you some insights on who we are. And we hope to get to know you as this podcast continues. So, Rosalind, the next thing we want to talk about is what was happening when the pandemic hit. March 2020, really for me, it kind of hit February, I would say 2020. And that's very significant for me because my birthday is actually in February. And I had all these plans of, I wanted to go away and with my friends to a nearby resort and really just have this relaxing but just fun birthday, and things just changed, but not only for me personally but in business. Here I was speaking locally and internationally, and everything just stopped. Even here in town, I would travel around, and I was very active in education, and I would participate in all these conferences, and all of a sudden, nothing. I was prepared actually to launch a new facet of my business. I had a meeting that was scheduled for March, March the 12th. I had a meeting that was scheduled. I already had people booked, had reserved the location, was really putting the finishing touches on that, and all of that had to be canceled. So I realized very quickly that I was going to have to, after I got over the shock of, just what was going on, that I was going to have to pivot. So, what was going on with you?
Well, my business was taking yet another turn. I thought a really exciting turn. Um, part of part of what I do, or what I had been doing, was life coaching, but I also had a side business of helping people who were immigrating to Canada, who were being transferred here by multinational corporations, helping them set up their life here in southwestern Ontario. So I'd help them with their home search, with searches for school for their kids, getting their government IDs, setting up bank accounts, all that stuff that when you're in a new place, it's difficult to figure your way around. So my idea, I had always kept those two things very separate, my life coaching and my relocation services. And my idea was to roll them under one. And my coaching company went from Triskelion Growth Coaching to Triskelion Transitions, because that encompasses transitioning in all aspects. And so the plan was to start marketing and networking locally with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Waterloo Economic Development Council, with people who know companies that are transferring people into my area, and to get those clients, to help them get their life set up, but also to offer them life coaching. What I had been doing was working on contract for a company from the States, and there was a conflict of interest for me to advertise my life coaching with them, which is why I kept the businesses separate. So that was all. I paid to have my website redeveloped, everything. And then I actually happened to be in Florida the 2 weeks leading up to the great shutdown here in Canada. And my partner and I were traveling north, and we kept hearing over and over again that the border's going to close, the border's going to close. And boy, it wasn't just the border that closed, the business opportunities, all kinds of stuff. So I think I spent several months just trying to figure out what was next for me, and continuing just with the life coaching. And then in August, I came upon an opportunity to create a speech, and to write a speech, and to be coached in that. And I jumped into it because I'd always kind of wanted to tell my story. And that has now morphed into really truly understanding that my coaching is about helping women in particular in transition. The relocation side of it has been let go this year because of that. So that's sort of what happened to me in 2020. It was a huge change. But you know what? I've been way more productive, I think, this year. With branding and all of that. It's really changed the focus for me. And that's how I got to meet Teresa, actually. So we joined the same mentoring group and got buddied up as accountability partners. And I've never looked back. I don't know about Teresa. She can speak for herself.
Well, no, I have not looked back. And you know what? I think this is a great time to just kind of bring our audience into this conversation so that they can kind of go through their minds. If you're a woman or a man and who is in business, or you maybe, for those who you don't even have a business, not even thinking about a business, but you had to make some changes. What was going on with you back in February or March of 2020. So here we are. We found ourselves, and Rosalind, I see that she's done a great job of making the pivot, right? So for me, most of the things that I was involved in really involved me being on a stage or getting on a plane or driving or traveling somewhere. And so I found myself really in a different position. What was going to happen as far as business was concerned, because not only here we were embraced in this pandemic, and we just had to figure out how we were going to be able to not only be separate, but continue to grow and thrive. So just like Rosalind, I had to make a pivot. But I have found it to be absolutely amazing. I've definitely picked up some new skills, such as my digital skills have definitely grown. My embrace of technology had to change because now I'm utilizing more Zoom. And I have found that to be quite rewarding that, I don't have to travel, that there are a lot of things that I was doing in my business that I can do virtually, which if you change not only your activity but change your thinking, then you can find that it's more productive. Like, I feel like I am more efficient and more productive because there are things that really can be done from my desk and with me virtually, as opposed to me getting up and having to, that time that it takes to travel somewhere. I found myself to be just as passionate. Um, and I've, like I said, I've embraced some new skills. So there's one thing that keeps going through my mind is that sometimes you do have to lose in order to gain. I too had to, well, I decided to rebrand my business. My business originally was Fit Club by Teresa Carthren. And really, I was at a point to where I should have been making those changes anyway. So now I actually have an enterprise. I shared that I'm the founder of Make Your Mark Media and Publishing, but there are other companies that are now under my belt that I didn't have, when the pandemic came. And we'll have an opportunity to talk about those things as we go along. But so that's how I made the pivot, was really to evaluate. That's what a good business person, or just a good person who is trying to create their brand, really establish and have a good footing on your life. Sometimes, we're going on along, but it's good to just reevaluate things. I'm a wife, so just reevaluating how I clean the house, now here I am, I'm at home. How do I clean the house and I still stay productive in my business? How do I, prepare meals and separate myself from my business and be present for dinner, with my family, because now everything is taking place under the same roof. So those types of things. So I had to make a pivot, had to have some hard conversations. With myself. But in the end, I let go a lot of things, as Rosalind mentioned, but I have gained so much. And we will talk about those more and more as we go along. And as Rosalind said, we met in a mentoring program, and we were paired up as accountability partners. So that's how here we are globally. I am here in the US and she is in Canada. And yes, we're partners for life. She is not getting rid of me, not not ever. So what about our vision? So our vision for this podcast, we why we formulated the podcast in the first place was because we were having such powerful conversations with one another as we talked about some of those things that I just mentioned, talking about budgeting, not only finances, but our time, about branding, and, so many things that we just thought, wow, some other people would really benefit from these conversations. And that's why we decided to formulate this podcast. And our last thing that we want to do today is just share with you our vision for the Relentless Transitions podcast. And how did we come up with the name? Look, this is a fun tip. So my word for this year is relentless. I just decided that the pandemic was just not going to win. And so I came up with, I'm very big on affirmations, and I came up with my word that was just going to spur me on. And so relentless. And then Rosalind is I mean, she is the expert at helping you with transitions in life, no matter what it is, whether it's moving or just facing different fears. And so that's the name of the podcast, Relentless Transitions. And so I'm going to let Miss Rosalind share with us her vision for the Relentless Transitions podcast.
And Relentless Transitions is just such a perfect title, because honestly, one of the things I've learned in my life is that I'm constantly transitioning, not just because of the pandemic. That was just one more thing that caused me to have to transition, but my whole life has been about transitioning. And I really feel comfortable making those changes, and they're just constant. It's a fact of life, right? So
Yes.
Relentless Transitions is just a perfect name, because we are always growing, always transitioning, whether it's personally or in our businesses. You can't just stagnate, or else you're going to lose out. BlackBerry is a great Canadian company, perfect example of that.
Yes.
They got lackadaisical about their research. They were the premier mobile secure mobile company, and then they just said, hey, we're top notch, and let go of the research, cut their research budget, and lo and behold, iPhone came out of the blue and took them down. So there's a good example of why companies should always be looking for opportunities to grow and not stagnate. So yeah, onto my vision for the Relentless. And what Teresa and I did with this is we went away separately, and we said, okay, we're going to create our own vision board for what we think we want our Relentless Transitions podcast, what we want it to be for our audience, what we want it to be for us. And then we came back together. And so we do have two separate vision boards. And I am going to talk about mine. So this is mine, and some people are tuning into this on YouTube. And so they'll have the visual, but I'll walk through it so that on the podcast, it makes some sense to you. I envision that by the end of 2021, we're going to be in the top 20% of podcasts for Canada. That's the goal. We're going to make it happen. Yes. We're going to make it. And that actually is also the name of a coaching endowment that I'm establishing this year to provide affordable coaching to women everywhere. And the pictures of, up here of the women, one picture, I vision me sitting in my house with a cup of coffee and a microphone, having a coffee with Teresa, having a coffee with our listeners, providing them with some useful tidbits and advice and insights, but also providing them with something to smile about, something to make their day, and make them want to become unapologetically bold, which is, sort of my tag phrase this year. Stay fearless, become unapologetically bold. So that's what I kind of envision why we're doing this. We're doing this to provide our audience with something that entertains but educates as well. So edutainment, I call it. So Teresa, anything you want to, I'll stop sharing my screen here. Anything you want to add to the vision, your vision of our podcast?
Well, yes. So, again, for our listeners who are maybe driving or wherever you are, you're listening through the podcast. Those who are on YouTube are getting the visual, and you can, when you get a moment and you get stopped and you can, you have your cup of coffee, we would love to invite you into our podcast home and, visit and subscribe also to our Relentless Transitions YouTube channel. So for me, I said that we would have 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2021. So if you are enjoying this podcast, we hope that you will continue to listen and that you will subscribe and share with those who are in your circle. How we want to serve you. I really want to help our audience to build your personal brand, not only your personal brand, but your business. And when I think about personal branding, when you hear the word brand, so often we associate that with your business. But, as I grow in my womanhood, I'm thinking about, who is she? Who is Teresa Carthen? What does she really, what does she look like? What are her daily activities? How does she dress? How does she relate to people? That's what I'm talking about, your personal brand. Like, create the atmosphere of who it is that you are and really walk into that. We're going to talk more about that because before we started speaking today, Rosalind was sharing some stuff about, just about planning your pathway, like planning what you would be like as a mom. So that's what I'm talking about when I mention the personal brand. And I am so keenly focused on self love this year. Self love, self care, and self affirmation. It all matters. And I want to help our listeners to really embrace loving on yourself. And then, of course, Make Your Mark Media and Publishing. That is my publishing company, and I want to help people to showcase their voice through media and print. Like I said, my goal is helping 1,000 women to showcase their voice through media and print. And that is our vision. We are so, so excited. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first episode. We're going to look back at this episode. You see my assistant, if you're really tuning, look, people dissect the screen. You see my assistant over there to my right is my dog, Samson. He came in here, and you know what? So I am a dog lover. That's another fun tip. But thank you so much for joining us today for the Relentless Transitions podcast. And we hope to see you again next week for our next episode.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. Send any comments you have to us. Anything, maybe questions or whatever that you want to ask, we can maybe try and address them in future podcasts. But the real goal is that we help you through whatever you're going through, business-wise, life-wise, and hope you find it worthwhile and making you smile, brightening your day to be part of our coffee podcasts. So
Awesome, awesome. So our takeaway, we want to always end with a great takeaway. So our takeaway for this episode is to embrace change.
yes,
Embrace
definitely.
change.
Yeah.
Thank you. See you
Thank,
next week.
thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're really looking forward to having you along for the ride over the next few weeks. We're going to be talking about some really useful tips and things that we've dealt with as small business owners, starting next week with a nice discussion about managing your time. So we look forward to seeing you then. We hope you join us. Thank you.